Hello again and welcome to another packed edition of Four Wheels Good. Later on, Steve Vokins will be driving the astonishing new Quattroporte from Maserati at the UK launch. And Sterling Moss will be relating his problems over safety in today's Grand Prix racing. Ginny Buckley has a report on the behind-the-scenes work at Le Mans, and we have a feature on car valeting. And John Wright gets to work on fixing his brakes. But first, there's only one word on the lips of the true motoring enthusiasts this week as they trek across Europe in their thousands to Germany for the Frankfurt Motor Show. Granada Men and Motors were invited to the opening.
On the programme this week, we're in Frankfurt for the 57th International Motor Show. It's absolutely vast with over 1,000 exhibitors. To get an idea of the size, just take a look at the Volkswagen Hall. It's hard to give you an idea on film of exactly how vast the Volkswagen Hall is here. To give you an idea, I'd say it's roughly about the size of a good 10 football pitches. You've got absolutely everything. The new Volkswagen Golf, of course, takes centre stage, but there is every VW product here in every colour imaginable. There's a cafe, there's a cyber cafe, there are toy racing cars, technology displays, games, dancing girls, and there's even a playground for the kids. It's probably not surprising that the star of the Volkswagen show is the new Golf. It may well be the fourth generation, but those Golf lines are still unmistakably there. Unlike the Passat and the Polo, which have undergone some dramatic changes recently, the Golf has retained many of its styling cues from last time around. However, it has grown quite a bit, both outside and in. Oh, and the lights are different too. But it's those changes on the Golf that you can't see that are some of the most dramatic. Safety has really been increased. There's an awful lot of new technology and there's a great range of engines underneath this bonnet. To really find out just how much the Golf has changed, you have to get behind the wheel and drive it, which is what Mike and I will be doing in the first edition of our new programme, Motor Week, which you can see on the 2nd of October. But the star of the Frankfurt show, as you've no doubt read about in the press, had to be the new Mini, which surprised everybody. At the BMW and Rover press conference the evening before the show started, we heard news about BMW's return to motorsport. We saw the rather bizarre-looking space cycle, BMW C1. And then, to everybody's amazement, the new Mini came crashing through a screen and produced the kind of reaction you normally see around supermodels. We didn't get too excited at first. We thought maybe this was another concept vehicle. Remember the Spiritual from Geneva. But Nick Stephenson, head of Rover's design, told us that this was indeed the real thing.
This is Mr. Stephenson, ladies and gentlemen. And is this a taste of the new Mini?
This isn't a taste of the new Mini, Sonia. This is the new Mini.
Wow.
This is the real thing. A car like a Mini, what an act to follow. And the car has been with us for nearly 40 years. I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? But Sir Alex Isigonis, all those years ago, created a car that could last so long. And now the task is to replace it. Well, you can imagine this is a pretty terrifying mission.
With one that will take us to 2040 then, if you're going off those days.
Well, I'd like to think we could follow Sir Alex' act. Sadly, I think in the modern era cars don't have such a long life, but certainly I think the new Mini will have an extensive and healthy life.
I think it's great. It's a Mini. It's the new, and it's going to be the new Mini. It's got a wheel in each corner. It looks like a Mini, and I know it's a little bigger, and it's had to be modified slightly for the safety regulations and those sort of things. But I think the team at Rovers have done a wonderful job on it. Actually, I'm very proud. And I'm sure Issy Gonis in the 21st century would have been very proud of it if he'd have seen it.
So, Steve Lewis, you're seeing the car for the first time now, the new Mini. What's the verdict?
Very disappointed, I must say. I mean, it's the first time I've seen the car. I mean, we've seen the show cars before from BMW and Rover themselves. It seems to be a mishmash of both the cars.
You're talking about a price of possibly £12,000 for this car, for a Mini.
I think a lot of present Mini owners, aren't going to be able to fork out that much for the car, I think.
£12,000 could buy you a new Golf, of course, which is something you know about, but for the time being, let's forget the Golf and concentrate on the new Mini. What's your immediate reaction?
Well, I have to agree with Steve. He said it succinctly. It's quite a mishmash. I mean, the more I look at it, I can see quite clearly it's a Mini, but it looks like a super heavily facelifted Mini, and it's just missing a bit of freshness and newness. And I'd rather buy a Golf.
I thought you would, but I mean, what could they have done different? I mean, it's easy to say what they did wrong. What could they have done right?
Well, the roof and the glass and all the pillars, that's a classic Mini theme, but it's time to leave it. They should have done a different type of roof and a pillar structure.
So finally, guys, points out of 10, Steve, come on.
5.
I'm 6. We're British.
Well, we'll have another report from Mike Rutherford and Ginny Buckley later in the programme. And most of next week's Four Wheels Good will have reports from the Frankfurt show. And don't forget, we'll also be covering the London Motor Show in October, as well as the Tokyo show. So keep watching for all the latest information you need to know. Well, now, Steve Vokins gets himself an invitation to a lunch and a launch. The event was the unveiling of another Italian monster from the Maserati stable.
It's not every day that a new Maserati is launched, but today is one of those special days. I'm here today in Oxfordshire for the launch of the brand new Quattroporte, and I've got with me Richard GADESSELLI to tell me a bit about the new car. Richard, tell me more.
Well, you said it's not every day that a Maserati is launched, and understandably it's a very exclusive brand. We only produce about 1,000 cars a year, and in Britain, although Britain is a very important market for us, we sell about 70 cars a year, so it's a very obviously rarefied product. But yes, we're here to present the new Quattroporte V8, which is an unusual car. It's a four-door sedan with a large boot space, but has the performance that one would expect from a supercar with Maserati's pedigree.
Tell me, what is the Ghibli Cup?
The Ghibli Cup is a brand new model that we bought into the United Kingdom from February of this year. We're only bringing in 25 cars, but this car's been developed from one single mark racing which took place in Europe and is based on that racing car. So it's a 2-litre car developing 330 brake horsepower, exactly the same as the race car. You can imagine 165 brake horsepower per litre. It's a phenomenal output, and I must say that it's been fantastically accepted by everyone in the UK. It's gone down unbelievably well for us.
The interior is very different to the Ghibli GT, isn't it?
The interior is different to the Ghibli GT in so much it has Kevlar finishings rather than wood. It has more aluminium and race style controls, but it still retains the comfort of a standard Ghibli.
It's very much a good blend of race car, but not losing any of the luxury, is it?
Absolutely, and you know, we have clients that they're car enthusiasts. They drive the car. Their wife can go shopping in the car. This is the interesting thing. The clutch is very light. The gears are easy to operate. It's a car that people quickly feel at home in, but with phenomenal performance.
One of the differences between this and the Ghibli Cup is the sheer amount of wood that's gone into this car. In the Ghibli Cup it's all carbon fibre and Kevlar. In this car it's all wood. There's wood everywhere, wooden steering wheel, wooden fascia, even wood on the vents, something I've not seen on any other car. The quality of the wood is phenomenal. The leather is fabulous. The car is just so luxurious. It's very smooth, it's very quiet, it's very quick, and it's very, very refined. This car has a high want factor, and I love it. This car is the fastest four-door saloon in the world. 170 plus miles per hour, 335 pounds-feet torque, 335 brake horsepower. It is a monster. When the nice man at Maserati gave me the keys and showed me how to use this car, he said to beware. He said, this is the fastest car I'll have ever driven. I don't know how he knows that, but he's right actually. This car is thunderingly quick. It's 330 brake horsepower and it is just lightningly quick. The interior is beautiful, strange colour of blue leather, but the Kevlar interior is beautiful. All the stuff is where you want it. It's got 4 suspension settings, it's got automatic climate control, it's got everything you want, and it is just beautiful. And it's cheaper than the Porsche 911 as well. Bit of a bargain if you ask me.
What a fantastic looking car, and one you'd be proud to show off in the staff car park, no doubt. After the break, how to avoid the M25 jams and more from the Frankfurt International Motor Show. We'll see you then. Hi and welcome back. We have viewers right across the UK and Europe. Yet, wherever you live, I bet you've experienced an annoying traffic jam in the last week or so. The London orbital motorway, the M25, has been famous for its jams and has been dubbed Britain's biggest car park. So you'd think that a new product brought out to tackle the problem would be welcomed. This is the new M25 guide, published by Give Way of Newcastle upon Tyne. They've obviously spent a lot of time down south researching the book, which basically gives the driver 62 routes which take you off the M25 and back on it again, depending on where the jams are. For example, this map here takes you off junction 1A clockwise, and you have to follow road signs and check your odometer until you get back on the orbital motorway at junction 2. The book is very clear and easy to understand, but it has its critics. Paul Waters, the AA Head of Roads and Transport, tells us that this guide will simply move congestion elsewhere onto less suitable roads which are not designed to carry the level of traffic that the M25 holds. The AA believes that accidents are more frequent on diversion routes, and their advice is to wait in a hold-up, which can often be quicker than taking a convoluted diversion. Well, the M25 guide is on sale now. Please make up your own mind, but really the only way to avoid the worst jams is to travel at 3 o'clock in the morning. Right, well, this guide will be totally useless where we're returning to now, the huge exhibition halls in Frankfurt, Germany.
Well, I tell you something, this car, and in fact most Volvos, probably have the loudest, most powerful sound systems of any production cars, but it's not the sound system of the car you're hearing at this precise moment, it's the racket on this stand, and the noise is in aid of the launch of this vehicle, the new Volvo V70 XC. What does XC stand for? Cross country. Shouldn't that be CC? I don't know, but anyway, the V70 XC is Volvo's, if you like, first proper off-roader. For a while now they've been selling the V70 all-wheel drive, and I can tell you it's a fine car. 2.5 litre light pressure turbo engine, about 193 brake horsepower. In fact, it's the car I drive day in, day out. When I take my kids to school, that's the car they go in, the Volvo V70 all-wheel drive. But this one takes it a bit further. It's the same basis as the, thank God that racket stopped. It's the same basis as the all-wheel drive version. Obviously this one's still got four-wheel drive, but it's got a raised suspension, bigger wheels, and a more aggressive, if you like, off-road exterior. I think this one is going to go very, very well indeed. It's also got an interior that is slightly more rugged and hard-wearing. This really nice tough sort of seat fabric here is going to be great for anybody who's out there in the Green Welly Brigade. And like I said, I'm pretty impressed with my V70 all-wheel drive, but I want one of these. There's one problem with it though. It's 30,000 quid, and for that sort of money you could certainly get yourself a very nice Chrysler Cherokee, and I think that's the key to it. That's the competition for this car. The Chrysler Cherokee versus the Volvo V70 Cross Country. It's going to be an interesting battle, and I tell you something, I guarantee that there will be people from the Chrysler Corporation coming over to this stand later today, because this is a real signal to Chrysler that they've got a massive, massive problem, and the problem is Volvo, and the competition is this new off-roader, perhaps Volvo's first off-roader. Don't forget the name, the Volvo XC.
Well, Mercedes' concept car for them this time round is the new Lifejet. They call it the F300 Lifejet, and that's it over there. What's going on at the moment, there's a press conference going on over there with all the top designers and chiefs from Mercedes. We can't get anywhere near it. It's crowded over there. We can't get a look in. But that is it over there, the Lifejet. It's a two-seater, three-wheeler. Bit maybe like a glorified motorbike almost. Certainly not like a glorified Robin Reliant, that's for sure. But it's very dinky and it has all the creature comforts you'd expect of a modern car, but on three wheels with two seats, and this is what it actually looks like on the road.
What an incredible vehicle. Daimler-Benz blending the thrill and cornering dynamics of a motorcycle with the comfort and greater safety of a car. The F300 Lifejet has an active tilt control, the 1.6-litre engine from the A-Class, and the brake lights and direction indicators using the new neon lighting technology. The work that has gone into the Lifejet is astonishing, and yet even though it's one of the brightest stars of the Frankfurt show, it is still a concept. Put your checkbooks away for the moment. As we saw earlier, BMW have also been working on a half-bike, half-car concept. Report on that next week. After the break, we'll have a sneak preview behind the scenes of one of the world's most famous endurance races, the Le Mans 24-hour race. We'll see you then. Hi and welcome back to Four Wheels Good. Now, what did you do this summer? Ginny Buckley had a great summer visiting most of the must-do motoring events, and one that'll stick in her mind will be her trip to Le Mans with the Nissan team.
You may well dream of becoming a racing driver, but what do racing drivers dream of? Well, their ultimate would be to take the checkered flag at a couple of choice races. The Monaco Grand Prix is one, and the other, the ultimate endurance race, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And if it's every driver's dream to win, then to have a win at Le Mans is the ultimate accolade for a manufacturer. Each year the big boys battle it out for the chance to prove that their vehicle is the winner. Porsche is the name that most of us associate with the race. They've had 14 triumphs at Le Mans in the race's 65-year history. They're followed by 9 wins for Ferrari and 7 for Jaguar in the good old British glory days of the race. On the face of it, the British presence here at Le Mans is on a pretty small scale, but once you scratch beneath the surface, you'll be surprised at what you find. Nissan are one of the big manufacturers who really want to win here, and to win in '97, they went to the British to look for help. Japan may well be a major manufacturing force, but on the track at Le Mans, they've managed to clock up just 1 win. But Nissan were determined to add to this year when they teamed up with British motorsports legends TWR to go for a win.
I think it's one of the most unique races in the world. It's certainly one of the most difficult to win, and to get the opportunity to go back with a company as professional as Nissan is a big thrill, and we're really looking forward to the challenge.
And this is the result of all the work. The R390 GT1 supercar, an ultra-high-performance road-going production model with a 3.5-litre twin-turbo engine which has been specially powered by Nissan. The R390 is a 2-seater mid-engine sports car and features a lightweight carbon fibre monocoque body, 6-speed sequential gearbox, double wishbone suspension and a specially developed suspension system. Now, there's no doubting the technology behind the car, but of course it's the drivers that make the crucial difference. And Nissan have put together an impressive team, which is led by Britain's own Martin Brundle.
Well, I think there's some experienced guys in the team. We have collectively done 24-hour races before, so we know what's needed. It is a huge task. So many people, 9 drivers, such a big crew of people at the racetrack over the Le Mans weekend itself, and any single problem on the car will put you out of the race, and will almost certainly put all 3 cars out of the race if it's a fundamental problem, design problem. So they're coming together well. We all know what we've got to do. We're all team players here. Because of the short programme and the lack of time, there's no politicking, there's no passengers. We've all got to get on and get the job done, and it's fascinating to see just how well it can work out in those circumstances. It's not necessarily just your own performance against your teammates. You have to throw your ego out of the window if you're a single-seater racer. You're not here to blow your teammates away. You're here to work with your teammates. You've got to trust them. It's a long way to go. You know, when the sun comes up on a Sunday morning, there's still the equivalent of 5 Grand Prix distances to go or something. So just to put that in perspective, you jump in a car and your teammates sweat, and within a minute of leaving the pits, you're doing 200 miles an hour down the Mulsanne. So you've got to trust each other, that you haven't just been off the road and damaged the car and not said anything. There's a much greater element of camaraderie and trust between the drivers, because you're more against the elements than against each other.
The race is a very difficult race, and it's all about teamwork and relying on your partner or your teammate to do his job as to 100% of his capability, and if everybody does that, then the chances are you'll be successful.
Yeah, you just have a straight line.
We caught up with the Nissan team at pre-qualifying at Le Mans, with 85 cars aiming for a spot on the starting grid for the race. The number are whittled down at pre-qualifying, which is a month before the actual race. Here it's the lap times that are all important, and Nissan managed to clock up some pretty impressive times, all 3 of their cars earning a place on the starting grid, and with Martin Brundle setting the fastest time of the weekend.
It was a really nice lap. There wasn't too much traffic. I thought I could do a 43.5, so it was nice to do a 43.1. It's a nice little bonus. Really good, clean lap. I really enjoyed it.
This is probably one of the most famous spots on the Le Mans circuit. We're right at the end of the Mulsanne Straits. And the cars are coming down here and round the corner at anything up to 200 miles an hour. So it's really no surprise that a team like Nissan will get through enough tyres in the 24-hour race to take an average car right round the world 200 times. And a bit more Le Mans trivia for you. Over the 24 hours, 200,000 spectators will watch the cars cover around 370 laps. That's over 5,000 kilometres. Each car will need an average of 28 pit stops and make 58 gear changes per lap. That's around 21,460 gear changes that each car will make throughout the race. In order to compete in GT1, a manufacturer has to produce at least one road version on which the racing car is based. And this stunning looking thing behind me is Nissan's One. It's a 3.5 litre twin-turbo V8 engine, and it has a lightweight carbon fibre body and a 6-speed sequential gearbox. Do you fancy one? Well, the regulations state that it's got to be on sale at under $1 million. And this is a bit of a snip, around £500,000 Nissan expect. So you better get your orders in now if your numbers come up on Saturday. It's at the pre-qualifying that you realise how diverse a race Le Mans actually is. Basically, anybody who can afford to fund a team can have a go. In comparison to the big names here, who invest many, many tens of millions into their racing budgets, is a company like Lister. They're flying the flag here this year for Britain, and they have a relatively tiny budget in comparison. They're sponsored by Newcastle United, and there's a bit of a rumour going round that the car's fuelled on Newcastle brown ale. Whether you're operating on the relative shoestring that Lister are, or you have the mighty weight of a manufacturer like Nissan backing you, the 24 hours of Le Mans remains, for both car and driver, an awesome race. A real challenge that is still as fiercely contested and prized today as it was when the drivers first made that run to their cars back in 1932.
Ginny Buckley amongst the history and glamour of Le Mans 1997. Well, let's move to another motorsport, Formula One. Sterling Moss is our regular guest on this programme, and this week Mike Rutherford questions him on that delicate balance between the driver's safety and the driver's thrills.
You guys were kind of hard men, for want of a better phrase, in those days, and I look at some of the guys today and I think they're spoilt little brats, perhaps with rich daddies, and they don't know how lucky they are.
Yeah, but we had spoilt little brats like that with rich daddies or what have you then.
They were still really putting their necks on the line, weren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, there were quite a lot of guys who'd come along and scratch some money together, and they get a decent car, and they go around and start money specials. So they go to a certain race, and they give them 200 quid to start, and they get there, and the thing would break. I mean, they would go around at the back. They were always part and parcel of the sort of circus. I mean, much more sophisticated now, no doubt.
And another word that always springs to mind, and I think a lot of the punters out there, a lot of the people who watch Formula One must be saying to themselves, these guys are brave. And I know we've talked about this in the past. Bravery you don't think is a factor. It's not a quality in Formula One, is it?
Bravery, you see, bravery and stupidity are quite often the same thing. I mean, you do something, people say it's brave, but it quite often is stupid.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's much room for stupidity in racing, that's for sure. No, I think that if you have to use bravery in racing, then you're being stupid. If you can't go round a corner. Now, there were times, I must admit, where I required, I suppose one could say bravery, because I'm overcoming a fear, which is what I suppose it is. And I go into a corner and think, well, Christ, I want to be a bit quicker. And it's very, very difficult not to give what we call a confidence lift. In other words, you ease back. You wouldn't know I'd done it, but I know I'm slightly off. My toes aren't quite as long as they should be, and it isn't flat. If you go round a corner, and there are some you come to when you say, God, I got around that, and still got a few inches left on the outside. I could have been a bit quicker. And then you come in the next lap, 2 miles later, and still your foot pulls back, and you don't want it to, and you're sort of, and it requires enormous concentration and great control of your mind, I suppose, really, to say, right, it's going to stay there. And so I suppose that's the nearest I ever got to courage, really. But
and what about being scared? I mean,
yeah, that happened.
I think
if you aren't scared, what's your limit? You see, I can tell you, I had a threshold of fear, which is much closer now than it was then, obviously, when I was younger and so on. But my threshold of fear, wherever it was, one could move it, and it would depend on on what the surroundings are. In other words, if you go over a mountain in the Alps and there's a precipice like that, I bet you go a bit slower than if it happened to be a nice runoff on the field.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't really. If the thing will stay on the road like this, whether there's a field there or a precipice doesn't make any damn difference, does it, to the road holding? But you've got to convince yourself that precipice is actually a field that you can run off onto. And being able to control your mind and do these things does require quite a lot of control.
And the other thing I think you said to me once before is that fear comes into play. You get scared when you're a passenger, as it were. What was that? You were in, I think, a Maserati when something broke.
Oh, you mean when something happens to the... Yeah, well, I mean, I was going around the banking at Monza at about 165 in this thing called the Eldorado Special. And so I'm like this, holding... when you're on a banking, it goes up like this, it's like being on the straight, except that you've got the banking to help you. So you're not cornering that much, right? But you are a bit, because it's, you're going around there. And I'm going like this, holding this thing down, and suddenly my arms crossed. Now, I'm not stupid. I knew something was wrong. I mean, it shouldn't have happened like that. And what had happened was the steering had sheared, and therefore my hands had just done this because it wasn't attached. And the car, because of the centrifugal force, went up to the top and hit the Armco and knocked the poles out and so on. And I must say, I closed my eyes, put my foot on the brake. I wasn't frightened at the moment, because you suddenly think, oh God, it's self-preservation. But as soon as you get over that, then the fear comes in. Your stomach feels as though you've got a great soggy piece of suet in it. And it sort of goes down, and your hands get funny.
Yeah.
And
sickening sort of feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been literally physically sick with fear, although I think some people have. But it's certainly, it gives you a great feeling of the value of life, and I think it makes you a believer.
So why do people do it? People put their neck on the line, and let's not forget, although it's got much safer these days, let's not forget Ayrton, of course. Let's not forget Roland Ratzenberger.
Tragic, of course.
Yeah, and let's not forget a lot of people in other forms of motorsport. Paul Warwick, some.
Why do they do it? I'll tell you why you do it. Because the payoff, and I don't mean financial, the personal exhilaration is enormous. If you can go into a corner and you've got a really good driver behind you, somebody really hot, and you can go around that corner and pull out a few feet in front of him, by God, you feel like $1 million. It's something you can't put a price on it.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is, I'm sure when you put a ball past Boris Becker to win the final at Wimbledon, or you score that goal at the FA Cup final, I'm sure the exhilaration is just as great for those guys, isn't it? So why not play it a lot safer?
They can't play football. I mean, it's to each his own. If I could have the hand of God in football, I'm sure I'd be doing that, But no, the point is that in every game, I think, I'm sure to a man who plays cricket, that lovely click and the ball goes up there and lands, it must be an enormous exhilaration.
Yeah. But there seems something, in motorsport, it's something over and above that. It's almost an obsessional thing.
You know why? Yes, but because your life, if you miss the thing, and when you're going to make that hole-in-one, the damn thing just runs around the cup. You haven't just missed the hole. You're fighting for your bloody life, going off. And then you realise, my God, I bet too much on that. The point is, your right foot is the throttle, and these are your hands. And the skill that you have, and the understanding and knowledge, and the interpretation of the corner, all that is, you have it called experience. And it says, look, you can go around here, you can try that a little bit harder. And if you do, you are going to risk a bit more, and you know it. I mean, you're not a fool. You don't just go in and try. And you say, Christ, well, now, if I do lose it on this corner, there's a tree there, and so if I hit that tree, I could be dead. And that is when it really that is when it gives you an amazing buzz.
Sterling Moss there. Well, in our last part of the programme tonight, Steve Vokins discovers how to get much more for your car when you come to sell it. And John Wright fixes some dodgy brakes. So join us very soon. Hi and welcome back. Now, you know the feeling, you fall in love with the sensuous curves of a beautiful model and yet you just can't get the cash you want from your current one. Let's join Steve Vokins drooling over the forecourt.
If you go on holiday at the beginning of August, you'll meet all sorts of interesting people, but I guarantee you won't meet any car dealers. That's because August is the month when most cars are sold. Up to a quarter of the year's brand new car sales are made in August. That obviously means there's a lot of second-hand cars as trade-ins, so it's a very good time to buy. I'm interested in buying this Jag. Lovely price, fabulous car, but I need to know what I'm going to get for a trade-in on my old Volvo. So, Mr. Salesman, what's the best price you can offer me on it?
Well, looking at the car and the way it's been looked after, I have to say, it looks like you've been living in it. The back seats have got about 2 mil still not cleaned up on it. The paint's faded and the other bits and pieces. It's definitely going to need a lot of sorting out. So,
what's the best price you can offer me?
Well, the most against this one, like it is, would be about £800. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Then. 800 quid. I need more than that. It's worth more than that. We'll see. We'll see. 800 quid. It's worth more than that. All right. So it's scruffy, but I'm sure I can get more than that. All right. I know I should have cleaned it first, but don't have time. Hello, Talking Peters. Can you give me the name, please, of a decent car mobile valeting service, please?
Having been in the car trade for about 20 years myself, buying and selling cars, I can absolutely assure you that the dealer will look more favourably on a vehicle if it turns up looking in a showroom condition, because it cuts down the amount of work that he has to do, and therefore you're bound to get a better price for it. It also, it's first impressions, and if a dealer looks at a vehicle and it's clean and tidy, it certainly gives the impression that it's been well maintained. We actually do a complete range of services, starting from a mini valet, which roughly begins at about £12, going up through 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and complete valets on inside and out. We can do round engine bays, and we do a complete treatment to the whole vehicle. Obviously the prices vary depending on what you're having done, and don't forget we also do commercials as well.
So tell me, which is more important, an inside clean or an outside clean?
Well, obviously the outside clean is the first thing that you would see if you were pulling up outside a garage, which gives you the first impression. But really and truthfully, what says more about the actual motorist, I think, is the actual interior of the vehicle. We take a lot of trouble to go to ashtrays, inside the door trims, the windows are very important, everything is done. And when we leave a car completely valeted, we put in the plastic seat covers, we put in an air freshener usually, and when the customer drives off in his car after we finish with it, he's certainly very impressed, and it's certainly different to trying to achieve the same standard on his own. The beauty of it is it's convenient. You don't have to give us a plug. We can simply turn up and do the job for you. A full valet normally would take about 3 hours depending on the condition, so you can see the amount of valuable leisure time that you would be saving by not having to get involved and do it yourself.
Can you just talk me through the interior of the van? There's a bewildering array of chemicals and a generator and everything else. Tell me more about it.
That's right, we've got a Honda generator here that gives us power anywhere we can go, so we can go, as I said, anywhere in the country and do a valet.
I didn't think my car was that bad, but when I see all the rubbish outside and see the dirt that you've got out of it, I'm quite ashamed of it. Presumably, I mean, tell me it's not the worst you've ever done, please.
Certainly it isn't the worst that I've ever done. We have to clean up a lot of things that people don't like to talk about. Dog fouling, cat fouling, people being sick in cars, and also we go to places where the car is, say for example, a car is used on an estate. I've been to one estate where it was used on a nursery estate, and for example, I opened the back door and literally the dirt fell out, and it was a question of actually getting the power hose inside the car to clean the car, clean the carpets, clean the seats. It was that bad. We try and get the car back to as near as possible to a showroom condition. On every car that isn't always possible, but we do our very best to do that.
Right, the chaps have been at it a couple of hours now. They've just about finished. Let's have a look, see how good it is. While they've been doing it, I've been looking in the catalogue at some of the pictures, and they're really very, very nice. I'd certainly buy it if it was new. But looking at the car now, it looks almost new. I'm most impressed. Let's have a look inside. Oh wow, smells lovely. The headlining's clean, everything gleams. It's like new. It's 11 years old and it looks absolutely brand spanking new.
Right, initially on the setup of your franchise, you're supplied with chemicals from Autosheen, and they range from leather cleaners through to multi-cleaners, which we use on vinyls. There's also low foam additives that we use to clean your seats. There's also gels that we use to dress the outside of the vehicle, and of course not forgetting polishes, various types of polishes. I carry 5 different types of polish to clean a car from various stages, depending on the state of the car, depending on what cut that we need to cut the paintwork, basically, from a very hard T-cut, if you like, right through to an exhibition polish. In the front of the vehicle, or halfway through the vehicle, we carry a 60-gallon water tank, and that's filled up, and obviously we can go anywhere, as I said before, and we can actually do the valet there and then. As I said, generator, power washer, chemicals, water hoses, you name it, we've got it to clean the car.
So what do you think then?
Well, is it the same car?
It is actually, you wouldn't believe
well,
it. But
no,
it is.
you wouldn't. But I mean, now it looks like a well looked after car, and we can see we haven't got to do any paintwork on it. Interior's good. It's a nice car. We could put that straight on the front, so I think we could manage £1,500 on that now.
That's more like it. Well, this was the car I was lusting after this morning, and it's very nice. All original, leather interior, air conditioning, auto, lovely, very nice. But what with my car looking as clean and as nice as it is now, I'm not so sure anymore.
Isn't it astonishing what a valet can do for your car? And maybe that report has given you an idea to apply for a franchise yourself to set up your own mobile valet service. Well, finally tonight, let's welcome back our ace mechanic John Wright, fresh from his success with his purge machine last week. Only tonight, he's having a weird feeling driving along.
Welcome to another Inside Motors. This time you've caught me inside a car. This Peugeot's got brake problems, big brake problems. Every time you put your foot on the brakes, this is the noise you get. When you hear that noise, there's only one thing it can be. You've run out of brake pads. And by the time you've heard that noise, you've run out of your discs as well. So right, we're going back to the garage. We're going to confirm the diagnosis by jacking the car up and taking a look, and then we'll go and buy the bits and get it fixed. Right, before we do anything drastic, let's just check the diagnosis. I'm pretty sure I'm right, because that noise can only be one thing. Wheel away. Yeah, those are definitely looking very thin, and it needs new discs as well. Even if the pads hadn't contacted them and gone metal to metal, we need a new set of discs. Right, that's it. Let's go to the shop, discs and pads. Here we are, back from the shop. New set of brake pads, tin of brake parts cleaner, and a new pair of discs. What is absolutely vitally important is that discs and drums should be fitted in pairs. And nowadays they're even coming boxed in pairs just to make sure. It's absolutely imperative, that. Right, let's get on with the job. Right, let's see exactly what we've got to do and what tools I need. Right, and socket there, that's free there. Yeah, and some pliers. Right, I'll just go and get the tools and we'll come back and do the job. We'll need that. We'll need that. And somewhere in here we've pliers. Need that. Need that. We'll need that. Knock these pins out. One. Oh, that one flew. Right, the caliper's held on with 2 bolts that we've freed off around the back. Just get the second one off and then it'll fall away in our hands. And then the disc just pops away cleanly.
And we'll get to fix those dodgy brakes next week. Well, that's all for this week. Join us for our next show, which has further coverage from the Frankfurt International Motor Show. We'll see you then.